Good evening. Thank you for inviting me. I'm going to read from a book actually called Real, which came out in 2004. Nothing to do with this directly. It came out in 2004, and the poems in it were written in 2003. So what I'll do is I'll read you this little section called Decades. It's a time of anxiety, and I'll tell you about each of them as I come to it. The first part, it's in each of these decades is in 10 quatrains, and each of them is about a particular subject. This one is the first decade to be recited at times of trouble, because I thought 2003 was a time of trouble. And this is primarily about all kinds of resentments and hatreds. The best lack all conviction, while the worst have gone the extra mile, and must therefore arrive there first, where worst is best and best is worst. Justice lays a clutch of eggs, out of which climb creatures with 1,000 legs, given the time. Chickens roasting on their spits are genuinely thrilled to bits. It's good to hear the customers speak so warmly of their curve of beak. Revenge is a dish best eaten cold. You sit so long at the table waiting to be served, but someone eventually brings you the meal you have deserved. You could fuel an air force with that hatred. Watch how a single aircraft taxis across a crooked runway on its mischievous axis. Open a box and out fly all the names of despair, loudly caterwauling, immediately to engage in their favourite games of hyperbole and name-calling. Pity wears too many faces. She complains of exhaustion and fever. It seems her destiny is to suffer shooting pains every morning forever. Genocide has no funny side, nor can survival brook a rival. The peculiar carpentry of the coffin constructed by a gun ensures that it falls apart the moment it's laid in the ground, and yet fits everyone. When God at first made man, having a glass of blessings standing by, it seemed a good idea, and after all, it does behove a deity to try. This is the people of the book. I'm thinking of the Middle East here, the people of the book, basically Jewish like myself. The people of the book react with bookish fury, adding another chapter to the troubled tale of Jewry. It doesn't take much, it never takes more than a delicate touch and some blood on the floor. It's not a matter of life or death, the old man assures us with his last breath. They were too meek, they were compliant, says the Holocaust dwarf to his grandson, the giant. Between Chagall and Chaim Soutine, there's room left for debate, and on such grounds of argument we may well found a state. In creating a state as a refuge, they might have foreseen that they'd carry with them the dust of the places they'd been. Once the displaced had settled down and their pulses had stopped racing, they spread their belongings out on a lawn and set about others displacing. When God is under the weather, who looks upon his chosen, shrugs with disgust and leaves them in a desert frozen. Under the magnifying glass, toothpicks become stakes, and people in their hundreds die because a man's tooth aches. Life is nasty, brutal and short, so what harm in making it shorter? All it takes is a bit of paste and a distant sound of a mortar. And this is the other side of the same business. When they scored, they bent and kissed the 18-yard line, as if the pitch were sacred and scoring a sign. Mahmoud, Jamal and Hisham, the girls arrive in the press, your lips, sleek Ruth, bright Hannah, and Judith in her Sabbath dress. Europa has a party and invites all ranks of city dwellers into her penthouse bedrooms and filthy cellars. There's a long music that moves in a slow stream within our blood. To wake from it is like breaking a dream. God does not forget. So how can you ask of a man to repeat the same mistake time and again? We do not inhabit land, land inhabits us. On that point, our scribes are quite unanimous. Great leaders with beautiful manners have mastered the trick of command. Speaking softly is hopeless without a very big stick. They hurt our pride and broke the neck of our God under their yoke. Into the void his head falls forever, and his voice calls. Believe unto death, they cry as they strap on the belt of death. Believe, they cry as their bones melt. The defeated have ceased to exist. One cannot stop existing. Once the living have been killed, the dead can start enlisting. This is about the press. It's called editorials. It's the 4th decade. The wind blew hard. There was the usual rain of blood. The apocalyptic herald landed on the mat with a dull thud. Major world figures made speeches. The press bit its nails as the flawed engine of goodwill ran off the rails. World is stranger and suddener than leader writers think. You can't tie it down in its trolley with a dose of printer's ink. One after another they frowned and spoke as if their hearts were laden down by what they had to say in their various parts. Something corrosive was eating away at the fabric of the tongue. The breath froze in the mouth of the word. Alarm bells rung. So much righteousness concentrated on a page. One item tagged onto another, rage on rage. There are things that happen, and there is the news. A whole electric industry on a single fuse. Listen to the incidental music of what happens as it dies in the ear, and beyond it the sound of faint, barely audible cries. The camera's brief intimacies. One glass eye must serve all those who crowd in to touch death at the point the lids close. Death's production values are low-tech and demeaning. You need to frame things properly to give them meaning. And the last one, which is a palace of art, each of these refers to an artwork. I can tell you what they are as we go along. And the very last one, does refer to the Iraq War, which was just starting at the time. So the first one is a Piero della Francesca Scourging of Christ. In a classical porch, 2 angels are steadily beating their God. You must train your deities properly, no point sparing the rod. Veronica, and with her handkerchief, who touches Christ's face and comes away with an imprint of Christ on it. Saint Veronica lends her hanky to the fallen. Next day, she opens it up. Oh my God, I have taken his face away. Bruegel, I think. I can't remember now. A wheel on a pole, a raven. The crowd has formed a ring. In the center, death, and still they keep coming. Always this bare hillside and a crowd huddling and thinking aloud, thoughts that collect in a valley beneath with folded spectacles, shoes, gold teeth. This is Giotto's version of hell, this next one. It's awfully black down there, and our limbs are terribly bent. How lifelike the darkness is we seem to be doomed to invent. Signorelli's hell. Hell is muscular and crowded, like a gym where the demons work out their frustrations on apparatus, unhindered by rust or by doubt. Rubens, as I remember this one. God slides down the chute of his robe. His body seems almost to float. The late romantic chorus of love belts on in full throat. We watch the universe collapsing about the victim's head. The living are turned away from us, not so the dead. Resurrection, Piero's again, I think. Soldiers asleep, he stands stiff back, his eyes burn. Resurrection begins. Now it is our turn. And the last one is St. Thomas, and the whole idea is that St. Thomas puts his fingers in the wound to check that Christ is really been crucified. And in my mind, it's like putting in an army, as you will see. You put your fingers in the wound gingerly, since you doubt The problem is not so much poking it in as getting the bloody thing out. And I'll finish with a sort of version of a poem by Mahmoud Darwish. We love life whenever we can, but transferred to around here. We love life whenever we can. We enter the grocers, the bakers, the chemists, the post office daily. We love life whenever we can. We borrow each other's books and paper clips and forget to return them. We spruce ourselves up for a meeting, order a taxi, climb into a bus or a train. We love life whenever we can. And so we sign letters and cards and spend the evening walking the street when the winter is fiercest and the light in the windows and amusement arcades snarls at the darkness and the sea is quietly chomping at the cliff and the owl and the rat and the fox move over and through and we hear them and listen. We love life whenever we can. Thank you.